Yay, we made it. You would be shocked to know how many times I have forgotten to hit record. so we're good. So hello everybody. I'm going to try to do better with a microphone. I can't make any promises, but thank you for joining another episode of like Around the NFL as I talk to different fans. So I'm super excited for my next guest. I was on YouTube and his video popped up. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need a Falcons fan. Like, would you be interested? And so I sent a communication and we've been in contact. So first of all, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you for doing that. Second of all, thank you for getting back to me and being like a cool, normal person. You would be surprised how many people you talk to online that you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, thank you. Have a great day. You just kind of leave it where it's at. So I appreciate you for just wanting to, come and talk to me about all things Falcon. So if you don't mind, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, whatever you want to share. And then obviously, what made you a fan? When did you become a Falcons fan? How has being a Falcons fan been for you?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on first and foremost. But I'm Brice Lewis. I currently reside in Greenville, South Carolina. I am from Georgia originally, though. I currently work here as a producer at the news station here. But my passion, everything is sports. That's what I'm hoping to get into full time. That's my goal. So I've been doing podcasts for Believe called Believe in Hawks. I do Atlanta Hawks. And I've also been doing Falcons content as well, which is how she found me. Covering the team the last few years. So I've been kind of in that sports realm, doing my thing, everything of that nature. I became a fan, actually. It's always funny when I tell people the story. I became a fan during 2007, right after Michael Vick got arrested. It's funny because, like, obviously, like, I'm hearing about it all the time. So I'm like, all right, let me watch the team anyway. And it's crazy. They were bad that year, but I became a fan. And I've been a fan ever since. And then I went through the Matt Ryan years of rejuvenation and everything. And now we are here to this day, now with a new era of Falcons football coming in. But overall, it's been a fun experience. It's interesting seeing the Falcons fan base, especially with how people respond and grow. Makes you realize some fan bases are very similar and some fan bases are very different.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit before I hit record and I said, like, part of NFL fandom, it feels like most of us, not all of us, have experienced the high of winning a Super Bowl. We've experienced at least going to the Super Bowl, and we've experienced like being good. And so, but most of us aren't good every year. And so there's this weird like thing that you do as a fan where it's like, you get new coaches, you get new running backs, you get new quarterbacks, you get like all of these things. And so we've all had similar experiences, but they've all come at different times. And so depending on when you talk to the fan, you're at a different point in your fandom. But I feel like in the off season, nobody has said to me they think their team is going to be atrocious this year. And nobody has said to me, oh, we just don't have any hope. Like, we're not going to make it, right? Because you don't feel that way right now. You feel that way like week 8, 9. So we're not there yet. So I try to get everybody at like a good sweet spot. And so one thing that you mentioned that I just wanted to comment on, you mentioned that you're currently working like at a news broadcast, but you want to pivot into more sports and not just, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's overall my passion. That's what I went to school for. I had to deal with COVID 2 months after I graduated from college. So that just changed everything because the industry shut down for a year. So like I couldn't even attempt to get a job when that happened. And then when I came back, it was just when the jobs were starting to come back, it was one of those, like, I just need a job.
Yeah.
So I was just applying. My first job actually was in Lexington, Kentucky as a news producer. And I was just like, okay, maybe there's some things I can learn, take from this. And I went there for 2 years. Learned some things. I was able to get on air there doing some sports. So I like to tell people, I guess I'm a little bit official. I've been on a TV screen before. So, but nothing too crazy. And then just continuing to build off that. And then here we'll see if this my next station, this current station, if I can get on air. But it also is beneficial because Greenville is only 2:15 away from Atlanta. So
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm able to kind of start looking at potentially going to one of my big things I want to do is go to Falcons training camp this year and try to get credential.
Well, listen, if they let you in and say you need a fan, No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, hit me up. I'll be on my way. Be like, let me just see what's happening around here. No, I'm just kidding. I know that's not how it works. So I was just kidding. Well, awesome. So tell us, I mean, let's discuss the elephant in the room. Kirk Cousins, free agent, large contract, new head coach. I told you as before we started recording, I made a video where I said the Falcons are my pick to win the NFC South. For a multitude of reasons. I knew the cap space they had. I knew where they were picking in the draft. I knew they were coming in with a new coach. I don't think the division's that great. So I had all my reasons lined up. And I'm going to be honest with you. When they signed Kirk Cousins, I was like, wait, that money thing that I was saying will be an advantage and all these things. I was like, oh no. So I'm curious to know, as a Falcons fan, how did you all feel when you got Kirk Cousins? And now there's been some time, but how did you all feel when you made that free agent move? And then obviously I would love to hear about the other free agents that you got this summer, or this spring.
Oh yeah. I know. It's funny leading up to it because obviously there was a lot of rumors. We knew we were in the market for a quarterback. You heard Justin Fields a lot. You heard them potentially maybe trading up to get a quarterback. And then Kirk Cousins was like that veteran, expensive route that you wanted to go down. And a lot of people were having a more momentum towards the first two options. Then when free agency hit and Minnesota was reluctant, and that opened the door for us, and they went in there and was aggressive and said, this is our guy. Yeah. Because they understand that Raheem Morris has said this multiple times, the new head coach, that he feels like, I wouldn't be here right now if we had better quarterback play. And a lot of people just said if we had average quarterback play, we'd be a playoff team last year. And we did it. And so they're like, well, Kirk Cousins, even though he is coming off of Achilles, the last time we seen him, he had 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for the Vikings. He was playing at a really good level. So they're like, we get Kurt, we get our guy. Now we have that quarterback with this roster. So we expect to be a playoff team because of that addition. And then, obviously wide receiver wise, they revamped it a little bit. They got Darnell Mooney from Chicago in free agency, and they traded for Rondale Moore from Arizona, who's someone I'm really excited about. I was a big fan of his coming out of Purdue. And so I think they're going to make an impact. And then obviously Drake London coming back, still, being wide receiver one, continuing his ascension as one of the best receivers in the game. So overall, I think, when it was first discussed, I wasn't the biggest supporter of it, just more of because, I would have rather, I was thinking they'd want stability at the position. And my stability was like, you get Justin Fields. Okay, he's young. And if not, and if he ends up being bad, you'll have a draft pick next year. Or if you want to draft a quarterback later this year, and then, have Justin Fields, give you that flexibility or trade up. Yeah. But obviously they went about that a different way.
Yeah. Right. And it's kind of funny because it's like that old time saying, and like the further you get away from a decision, the better the decision is either going to be, or the worse the decision's going to be. In a weird way, I feel like I'm starting to understand it a little bit better now, like the further we move away. I also took time to understand Kirk Cousins' contract. And I think so many times the NFL fails us by saying, 300 million. And you're like, oh gosh. But then when you actually like look at it and see the structure, I think the same things with Daniel Jones and the Giants. It's like, yeah, it's huge, but they can get out of it. I think after the season or whatever, so there's again, first sticker shock. You're like, holy crap, excuse me. And then you're kind of like, you know what? Okay, you're right. If you're a quarterback away, if the division's not what you think it is, it was actually a perfect move. It just, there's a sticker shock attached to it that made it. Yeah.
Yep.
So what about the draft? So obviously you have Kirk Cousins, and the first pick of the draft is a quarterback, and everyone's like, okay, what are we doing here? I will be honest and say I tweeted on day 2, I was like, it'd be funny if Atlanta took another quarterback here. I was kidding, but it was just kind of one of those things where everyone's like, hold on a second. But I would love to know now that we're removed from that, things are happening. How do you feel about Michael Penix now?
When it first happened, I wasn't pissed. A lot of people were upset. I wasn't pissed. I was just more conflicted. Okay. I was just it was one of those, like, I don't know how to feel Like,
Yeah.
this is it's one of those moves you got to process. Like, what's the thinking here?
Yeah.
But like, I was never upset about the pick. And then the
Okay.
more as I've heard over time, I've kind of I understand. It's different. That's why it's so shocking, because it's different. Because
It's
I
different.
don't think any team has done this the way they've done this in this way. No one's used a top 10 pick to do this.
Facts.
You'll probably hear somebody use like a back, like for end of the first round.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Green Bay
Exactly.
did. Everybody likes to bring up the
Yeah.
Jordan
Jordan
Love,
Love.
Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
right? And so using a top 10 pick, people are like, whoa, why would you use a top 10 pick on a guy that you may not play for 2 years? But I get their reasoning. Their reasoning is, listen, we get our QB of the future. If we end up being what we fully expect to be, which is competitive, potentially a Super Bowl team, whatever, by the time they may be ready to move off Kirk Cousins, or if Kirk Cousins retires, they're going to need another quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And
They've
we
already got
don't
him.
know what the QB class is going to look like in 2 years or 3 years,
Yeah.
depending on whatever that is. We have no idea what it's going to look like. And then if they're going to be in the 20s, is it going to be that type of QB class that you can get a guy in the 20s that you kind of need to start right away? Or are you going to go for that we need a bridge guy? And for them, one thing Raheem has said multiple times is he wants to maintain success. He wants to be able to continue to win. We don't want to have that year where we know we're going to lose because we have to figure something out.
Right,
So
okay.
I think that's why they drafted Michael Penix. Because the problem is, like, everybody, no, not a problem. Everything that people said was Penix. The issue with Penix isn't him. It's not him, the player. People are fine with Penix. A lot of people like Penix. Some people think Penix can be a franchise quarterback. So that's not
I
the
agree
issue.
with that. I agree.
It's just more of, okay, we use this capital on him and not helping the team immediately, right?
Right. That was my thing. That was my thing.
Exactly. So now I'm fine with it. I mean, so far, even though it's like OTAs and shorts, I mean, he's looked fine. He's looked good.
Yeah.
As a thrower, he's one of the best throwers of the football that I think in this draft. And I think that's one reason why, especially our offensive coordinator fell in love with him, because he was the guy, our offensive coordinator was the guy who said Patrick Mahomes is the can't miss, and he was right. And now he's getting his first gig as the offensive coordinator with us. And so he had a chance to say, Michael Penix,
This
can't
is my
miss.
guy.
And so we'll see if it'll be the same result. Now, obviously, if the offense works out the way it does, he may not be here by the time Michael Penix starts. But it makes sense from a longevity perspective. Like, all right, well, if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, Kirk Cousins leaves, or Kirk Cousins or the Falcons are ready to move on, you have your quarterback ready to go. You can continue the ship. And the good thing you could look at it is, even though he's on a rookie scale, you're getting some money back. Obviously, and then you'll have a year or two, if depending on how many years he actually plays, to decide, all right, are we going to give Michael Penix a big contract and go from there?
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it's like the further you get away from something, you're kind of like, okay. But at the same time, in a weird way, the Steelers are kind of did something similar in a different way, but it's still at the same position. Obviously, we didn't use draft capital the same way, but we are kind of in a similar situation. I mean, we don't know. I mean, if Wilson comes out and is terrible and lays an egg, like Justin Fields is like on standby. So it's a similar situation. It's, so that's why for me, it's kind of like with time, taking a deep breath and actually taking a step back, you're like, okay, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work and it kind of works, I understand that. I do have a question. How is Kirk Cousins healing? Is he slated to be ready for training camp? Is he slated to be ready for like week 2, 3? Like, I'm not sure on his timeline. Has anybody said anything about that?
Yeah. Raheem Moore said during rookie minicamp that Kirk Cousins is basically 100% good to go.
Oh, okay.
So he's been throwing in OTAs. He'll be ready for training camp. He'll be ready for everything. He's already been studying film with the players, the guys. So every indication is that he is fine. And obviously, and the thing is too, especially right now, it's OTAs. No one's going after him. He's not having to test the Achilles. All he has to do is go through his motions. Can he plant his back foot throw with no discomfort? If that's the case, then Kirk Cousins is pretty much good to go. And then he will be taking those first team reps and be there when all the big major dates come up.
Okay, cool. Who else in the draft? Was there anybody else that you were super excited about? How do you feel like you all did in the draft?
I know our draft overall was also weird. Because we took a lot of defensive players after Kurt, and I mean not after Kurt, but after Penix. And, people were like, okay, they're revamping this. Because I think there was other positions that people wanted us to fill that we didn't. We really focused on the D-line.
Yeah.
We signed a guy. We drafted a guy from Clemson. Roar. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say his name. I
It's okay.
forgot.
Guy from Clemson. No worries. That works.
It's like you got to be like Scooby-Doo when you say it. That's why. But we got him. My favorite pick out of him, though, from Oregon, Brandon Dorlus, led the nation in pressures last year at Oregon. Really, really excited about him. Interior player, can kind of play both inside, outside a little bit. Really somebody also to help learn from Grady Jarrett, long time great Falcon for us. And, he's expected to be a guy. He's a guy I expect to be able to make an impact in the rotation in that D-line. D-line is a strength of our team, even though we may not have the elite pass rusher. But knowing that he was first in pressures, clearly he was able to get after it.
He did something right.
Yeah, exactly. He was able to get after it. So I really like that pick. And then one sleeper pick for us that I think some people are going to not feel great about, obviously because of how low the draft pick was. Wide receiver from Illinois is Casey Washington, 6th round guy. Looks good so far in OTAs and rookie mini camp so far. A guy who can be a candidate definitely to make the roster. As the 5th, 4th wide receiver potentially. So, and maybe he could find some time in the field if he continues to play well. So, just a couple of guys, I think, off the top of my head.
I love that. You know what else is cool is I love a sleeper. I love a sleeper pick. I made a video earlier. Jonathan Brooks was my sleeper of the draft. I'm a Texas fan, so I saw him and I remember just like the comfort I felt when he was out there. But I thought he was a sleeper because he got hurt. And I think if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would have went in the first round. So it's kind of like whoever's going to jump on him and take him. I just thought that they were going to get good value. So it was funny to see him come first off the draft board as a running back. And of course I'm like patting myself at the back. I'm like, I knew it, So that's awesome. And like, I would be remiss to say, tell me about my guy Bijan. How do Atlanta fans like Bijan Robinson? How do you feel? Does he bring you all as much joy as he brought us? I like to credit Bijan with being a pillar of Texas growing and Texas being back and Texas, becoming who they should be respectfully, and hopefully they need to maintain it, and that's on them. But I give that man so much credit and so much kudos for just being stable and being who he is. So I would love to know just like how do you all feel about him?
We love Bijan. Bijan's been great. When people selected him, people were questioning it again because it's like we're drafting a skill position player for the 3rd year in a row of a top 10 pick. But overall, I think people love Bijan. I mean, you have some people who still feel like we could have went somewhere else, but I'm happy with it. A lot of people are happy with it. He's not in OTAs right now. He has a bit of an ankle issue, but he'll be fine for mandatory OTAs in about a month. Yeah. So no concerns there. He's been pretty durable for us. But overall, I mean, I've loved Bijan. I mean, I'm excited to see what he's going to look like this year under this new offense of Zach Robinson with Kirk Cousins as QB. I'm excited to see, how his game continues to grow in year 2. Is he going to go through the sophomore slump, or is he going to maybe take a jump? Because he is RB1. We gave him, he's our lightning in the room. So, he's someone that I really think for the Falcons, especially because obviously changing our philosophy, obviously you guys have Arthur Smith now. So I would assume he's going to go to the philosophy he had with us the last 3 years with you guys, which is heavy running the football and then trying to do some play action. So
a girl can dream, because let me tell you something, like from your lips to God's ears. I'm like, please.
Yeah. Now listen, I have no idea how Arthur's going to do there. Obviously, if you ask Falcons fans, they think he's the worst offensive coordinator ever.
Of course.
He's signed
and they should.
They've signed a lot of former Falcons. I'm sure you've noticed from the past season. Yeah. I don't know how you felt about them trading away Johnson. Was it Johnson?
Deontay Johnson. Yeah, yes. It was time.
Okay. I didn't know how Pittsburgh fans felt about that, because, I mean, I just didn't know. They're like, oh, we lost a receiver. Yeah, it's like, because we were making jokes about it, like, oh, Arthur Smith hates a lot of receivers, good receivers. He said, just give me one, and then a bunch of, like, average receivers, we'll be fine.
Yeah. So Johnson's one of those guys, like I always say, and as you know, the NFL's a business. And sometimes like some guys just have to go and it's just not going to work because of business. He was one of those guys that it's like, it's not a knock on him or his skills or his ability. It's just, a lot of us just knew he probably wasn't going to be there. And I think, listen, we could go rounds and rounds about this with the Steelers, but there was a lot of, we had Matt Canada. Then we had kind of like a fill-in offense coordinator. And historically playing in the AFC North, we run the ball, like it's smash mouth football. It's establish the run, stop the run, play action, right? Like that's order of operations. All four teams really operate that way. We couldn't. And I think that some guys can adjust as well to adjusting. So, anyway, so he left. They got a draft pick for him, but it's I always say business decision. If he was free, we would take him in a second, but that's not how this works. So
yeah, I don't think that
one. Yeah. So I would love to know how you all feel, like what concern, like when you look at the team, what concerns do you all have as we're heading into the season? I do just want to throw this out because I don't think we've said it. The schedule is not out as of this recording. All we have are who you all play home and away. So I just want to throw it out there. So if anybody's watching going, say this, say that, we don't have that information. We'll talk about the schedule in a second, but we're talking about just concerns based on what you're seeing so far.
Team wise, I mean, offensively, I think we're fine. That's more of just me seeing it, and then we'll have the determination. Defensively, obviously, your two biggest things will be your pass rush, and then opposite Jesse Bates, opposite AJ Terrell. Because we're bringing back safety Richie Grant, who didn't have a great year last year. Obviously, I've sat there and said we've had three defensive coordinators down in 3 years. That potentially could have impacted him. He didn't play a lot his rookie year. Second year was fine. Third year wasn't great. So fourth year, where does he stand? Raheem Morrison's excited about him. He's going to give him every chance to play. We also have a guy from last year's draft, Marco Helms from Alabama, who played at the end of the last season. So I'm sure there's a competition going on there. Obviously, opposite AJ Terrell, we have again a draft pick from last year who started at the end of last year. Who got the opportunity. We're probably going to bring some guys. We brought some veterans. We're going to see what the competition looks like there. Because obviously, Raheem staying with the Rams he didn't really have a lot of elite corners. He had one, and then they relied a lot on interior pressure, different zone man coverages, and that is how they were able to really get that defense going in LA when he was defensive coordinator there. So, those are just the big questions because we don't have like solidified. We know right there. So that's right. The big question. But then obviously pass rush. Because again, we didn't get that guy who you just know is an automatic 10 sacks. They're doing it by committee. Like I said, Grady's coming back. You drafted 3 defensive linemen. You still got a second round pick from a couple years ago who's coming off his best sack season after his second year, but people wonder if he can be that type of pass rusher. So, we just don't know what the pass rush is going to look like and how that's going to all come together as well. So, yeah.
And I think that's good. It's interesting when you get a new head coach because it's like you know what he's done previously because that's kind of part of your due diligence, right? You go kind of research and see what he's done. And then you look at your personnel and you're like, okay, I think I see what we're doing. And then you go through the draft and you're like, all right, this is kind of okay. But really, we don't really know. And it's like, now is the time. And so it'll be interesting to see how much of this like pans out. I feel like I watch a ton of football on Sundays. I'm going to be honest. I watch more football than I would ever care to really admit of how much football I watch on Sundays.
I get that.
Because how my setup works and how many games I can actually watch at once. And then I have something else to watch, Red Zone. So I have a whole thing. I watched a ton of Falcons games last year because I was curious. And so you guys didn't lose a lot of games by a large margin. I feel like there was like 3 or 4 games that I can kind of remember either watching the last attempted field goal or I was watching the last drive or like there were certain situations where I just remember that. And I'm not even a fan of the Falcons, but I remember those moments. And so to me, that means almost like we're all like we're there. We just need like a couple of things. And so I'm super interested to see how this plays out, because like I said, I do. I think it's close. I think it's very close. So and I obviously want to be right in my prediction. So I'm secretly like, I think I said in that video, like, I'm ready to talk trash, if they do this thing. So I'm seriously curious. So the next kind of fun question is about scheduling. Is there anybody that historically you all look at and go, okay, this is always tough? I've also talked to a few people, and I've heard this repeatedly in different divisions, that is there anybody that like the Falcons always beat, and then a certain team always beats the Falcons, and that like there's in division games, there's always like this weird thing where everybody beats everybody and certain people lose to people, and it's just how it's always been. Do you all have that in NFC South as well, or is it different?
It honestly depends on the NFC South. I mean, we have been a bloodbath division, even if it's not the prettiest in terms of record division. I guess the closest team to that technically would be the Saints, since that's our biggest rivals.
Okay.
I think the last 4 seasons, they've won in terms of the amount of games that we played. I think we played each other 4 years, 8 times. So I think they've won the majority, because they've swept us, I think, a year or two out of the last 4 or 5 years. So that's probably the team, realistically,
Okay.
that is always going to be an issue. Like I said, biggest rival in the entire division. In terms of the whole NFL schedule that we have, I mean, toughest game, you would probably have to say the Chiefs. Play the Chiefs this year.
Cool.
So
is it in Atlanta or is it in Kansas City?
it is Atlanta, I believe. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. That'll be fun.
So, because last time we played them really tight, and that was in Arrowhead. So, yeah, This is in Atlanta this year, so that'll be interesting to see and how that goes. And I'm very curious to know when the schedule is released, or whenever you're watching this, what week we play them, because that'll definitely be a big, like, all right, are we that team?
Measuring, the measuring stick
that level
game.
yet or not? So
yeah.
Very, very curious to know about that matchup. And then I guess one team to throw in there that you feel like shouldn't be an issue, but has been an issue for us, has been the Washington Commanders. They've beaten us the last 2 years of the Arthur Smith regime. Team that we both played last 2 years, felt like we were the better team and lost both games.
We have, I hear you.
We got to get over the Commander hump. Apparently, even through all their shenanigans, they give the Falcons the trouble. They end up getting wins when they should.
Yeah. Well, I've said probably a couple of times as I'm recording this with different fans, so I'll sound like a broken record. My team is a grind team. We haven't always been that way. But here lately, we're grinding it out. Like every win we have is not going to be pretty, and every loss we have is not going to be like it's ugly. And because of that, what happens is we beat the teams we're supposed to lose to, and we lose to the teams we're supposed to beat. And so I hear you. Like last year, we had the Cardinals, the Patriots, and somebody else back to back to back, and we lost to all of them. And so I'm just like
what's going on here?
And we had backup quarterbacks we lost to. So it's like, I don't even know what that means. Like maybe it actually means like we're not very good. I don't really know. But so I hear you on losing to the teams you're not supposed to lose to. It's probably the most frustrating thing about being a sports fan is losing to the teams you should win. So what else? I'm in the South. The Falcons don't get a lot of love in the South because we have the Texans that are here where I'm located. I feel like the Cowboys are a thing. And then you have like big market teams. And I feel like the Texans right now are like the darling of the NFL just because, they're young quarterback, young coach. It's fun. It's exciting. If I'm being honest, we're all cheering for them in a weird way. And then I don't know about you, but we're all also cheering against the Chiefs because we're supposed to. So I would love to know how are Falcons fans feeling? What does the energy feel like? How are you feeling like going into the season? Is there something that you're hearing? Are you guys excited? Are you kind of like, we're tired of being excited, we'll see what happens? Like, what does it feel like right now to be a Falcons fan?
I think it's cautious optimism. Okay. Because I mean you're excited because you do expect to be better, but I think with being a Falcons fan and the stuff we've gone through, you always just have that bit of cautiousness there.
Yeah.
I think people are excited though. I think people are really looking forward to seeing what this team is going to look like, because this is a team that's supposed to be good. This
Okay.
isn't what we said that last year. We thought last year we were supposed to be good, and I think that's where the cautious optimism comes from. And it depends on your belief in Raheem Morris. I think they're excited. I think people are excited for Raheem. They're excited for the coaches. I think this is a really, really good coaching staff to put together. They're excited to see what happens with Kurt. So I think there's just excitement, individual things that you're looking forward to seeing. But in terms of an overall team, you don't want to be like, we are definitely going to be this, and then that doesn't end up being the case. So I think overall that's how they're feeling. For me, I'm pretty excited about the season. I'm excited to see what happens. Like I said, I do expect us to win games. I expect us to make the playoffs, and we'll see what happens when we get there. But I expect us to be extremely competitive, and I think that's all we can ask for. And obviously, having that quarterback situation fixed is important. I feel really good about that spot now, and now in the future, which is something we haven't been able to fill the last 2 years. So I think with those things there, I think that makes me feel overall pretty good about where we are. And like I said, just we're going to go through that offseason part where every throw, every catch, every play, you just gotta go. You gotta go through it, just because you want something to just be like, I think I'm feel good about this team, and I feel good about what's going to happen when this season starts up.
Exactly. And like I said, we're all fans the same. We just have different levels of fandom and different experiences. But at the end of the day, we all kind of do the same thing. We all kind of overreact to the same thing. And to be quite frank, I think we probably underreact to things that we actually should overreact to. We just don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
so here we are. Those were the only questions I had for you. I want to say, I don't think enough gets said in life about like people just like stepping in that don't know each other, that can just have good dialogue and have good conversation about a shared passion. So I appreciate, like I said before, your willingness to just like trust me a little bit and be like, all right, I'll respond back to her. Like she could be cuckoo, but like I'll do it. So I just appreciate that we can do this. I appreciate in a world where there's a lot of weird things happening and a lot of, what we'll just call it whatever it is happening, that we can still come together and like have this conversation and be super excited, be passionate, be respectful, love all of this. So I just want to thank you for being that and for being solid, because thank you for being solid. Just know I appreciate you, and it doesn't go unnoticed that you were so willing. And I just want to, let's just call it what it is. We messaged earlier today. And so this isn't like we didn't plan this, have it on the calendar, worked up to it. No, like I reached out and we got this scheduled immediately. So just thank you for being so flexible and so willing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I always try to, help out other content creators, man. We're all in this together. We're all trying to grow a brand. We're all trying to do our thing. So
that's it. So tell the people who are watching this where they can find your channel. When they find your channel, what kind of content they're going to get. I'll let you do your thing.
Yes. So if you want to follow me on social, Brice_2K. It's been on the screen this entire time if you're watching this. But you can follow me on there on my socials, keeping up with my Hawks and Falcons takes and just sports takes in general. If you want to find my YouTube, also Brice2K. I believe without the underscore. Or you could look at Believe in Hawks. Either one that can get you to my page. Definitely, if you have any interest or you're just a fan of the game, definitely we have some good conversations. I have some good guests on there. I had Steve Weish from NFL Network on there recently. Cool. I've had a couple other people that I'm bringing on. Obviously, right now for me, basketball season's kind of ramped up more because of what happened with the Hawks getting the first pick. So that's going to be something I'm definitely going to be on the next couple of months leading up to the draft and then free agency and everything like that. So if you're curious about that, if you have a basketball team that you think could make a connection to the Hawks, these Stray Rivers, I will maybe talk to someone off your team. Then we could, have that conversation, that dialogue. But if you're just a big fan of the game, football, basketball, also go over there too.
I love that. So go find his channel, subscribe, listen to him. I was able to watch a couple of videos just before, but honestly, I was looking at your tweets, and I have a question about the Hawks. They got the first round pick. Have you decided who you're hoping they take with that pick? Do you have any thoughts yet, or is it still fresh enough to be like, not sure yet? Give me a little bit of time to kind of work through my thoughts.
I am on board with Alexander Sarr, at the center, 7-1
Okay.
guy. Uh, I think that's who they should take with the pick. I know there's
Okay.
debate right now if they're going to keep it or not. Some people are trying to debate if, if we're trying to win now, trade the pick, whatever. Because
Right.
again, this is not valued as a highly great class. But I'm thinking, I mean, this guy can impact you defensively. That's what the Falcons, I mean, not Falcons, Hawks need. And I mean, also we get to move off Clint Capella. Time for him to go. And so, I think that would be the pick for me.
Okay.
Unless something happens between now and then that changes their plans.
Got
So,
it.
yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm at with that, just to
Okay.
get that top guy.
Yeah, I respect it. Well, awesome. We'll end this here. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm sure some way, somehow, we'll talk again about something. I
Yeah,
feel like the sports world, in a weird way, is very small. And so, anytime you find people you can just like talk to and like throw out ideas of, and just kind of be like WTF with, is the kind of the best conversations because, I always say like at some point in the NFL, we all need a prayer circle, whether it's for like our team or hoping somebody isn't as hurt as he seems, or whatever it is. We all have a moment where we're like, oh gosh, just please don't let this be a thing. So our shared passion connects us more than we think. So I appreciate having you on, and just thank you for being amazing.
appreciate you having me on too. Really do, really do.